Agenda is approval of the 23rd. Next on the agenda, the approval of agenda for February 23rd, 2021, DOE work session.
I move that motion.
I second.
The motion has been properly made by Ms. Blackshear, seconded by Ms. Ms. Cheney to approve the agenda for February 23rd, 2021 DOE work session. Any discussion? All in favor, move by aye or raise your hand. That motion carries unanimously. Next is the approval of the minutes for the winter session, November 2020 through February 9th, 2021. Need a motion to table that?
I'll make that motion.
Second. The motion has been properly made by Ms. Cheney and seconded by Mr. Stevens to table the winter session, November 2020 through February 9th, 2021 minutes. Any discussion?
We're gonna table to the next board meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess that's the one on your motion? You made the motion.
Yes,
Yes.
that the approval, the winter sessions from November to February 2021 will be tabled until the next board meeting,
Right. Next regular board meeting.
regular board meeting.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor? I need by aye or raise your hand. That motion carries unanimously. Next, be the ethics statement by Ms. Teresa Blackshear.
Thank you. In accordance with regulations set forth by the Georgia Ethics Commission, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflict of interest and interest of such conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or scheduled before us on our proposed agenda? Seeing none, we will proceed with our agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. We will begin with our business agenda. First item is the approval of FY 22 school calendar. That's an action item, Mr. Dixon.
Mr. Chair, I am walking into the building. If there are any discussion from board members, we can entertain that at this time.
Okay, if there's no discussion, we've had, I did provide for you, Madam Vice Chair, the survey from the parents, the stakeholders,
Thank you.
and it was favorable for calendar A.
Okay. Thank you.
So if no further discussion, Mr. Chair, we will move forward with a recommendation of, for calendar A,
And that's what 87%.
87%. Overwhelmingly with, that's the stakeholder involvement, and it was the same way with staffing input.
Oh, good.
Okay, we heard the recommendation from the superintendent, for approval of FY 22 school calendar. What do I hear?
I'll make the motion for the approval of calendar A for the FY 2022 school calendar year.
Second motion. The motion has been properly made by Ms. Cheney and seconded by Mr. Stevens to approve of the FY 2022 school calendar, calendar A. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your eye or raise your hand. That motion carried now. Next on the agenda is HVAC Phase 5 budget action item, Mr. Bacon.
As Mr. Bass is getting Mr. Bacon up, I want to remind you, this is the project for JES that we started on a long time ago, but as we've had each phase, we brought the budget amount to you so that you will be aware and approving that phase each time. So we have Mr. Bacon there on our screen.
Yes. Can you hear me, Mr. Dixon? Okay. Mr. Dixon, board chair, and board members, I'd like to appreciate you this evening, and I'd like to bring you the last and final phase of our HVAC project at JES. So here we go. Next slide, Mr. Bassler. Next slide. Okay, we have 5 different phases, as you see. As we went through each phase, I presented the board and Mr. Dixon prior to you guys looking at it, the calendar and schedule of events so that we can stay on track. And we did this so that we could save money and correlate our spending to our SPLOST collections. And according to finance, our SPLOST collections have been pretty good over the course of the 12 months that we've been doing this project. And so we didn't incur any additional costs. So as you can see, these are the schedule for the first 4 phases. Next slide, please. Okay, what happens in phase 5? Phase 5 is units, what we call units 7 and 8 here at the school, but commonly known as the office and media center units. And I'm sure Ms. Jenkins would been having some trouble because as we're the system is kind of split right now. She's been going through hot and cold. So what do we plan to do? Replace one 15-ton train heat pump. That heat pump serves the media center, and the 6-ton heat pump that serves the office area and the outer corridor. 2 heat coils, mixing boxes, so that we can get the correct outside the return air ratios correct. Which here the lengthy thing with this process is replacing the refrigerant piping. Each unit has 2 instead of 1, like most units have 2 circuits per unit. So that's 4 pipes per unit. So that's going to take a long time. And if you know the distance from where these units are, the actual mechanical room is on the other side of the building. So that's the longest part of this particular project. And of course, the Omniflex and and the controls for each one. So that's what we would part of phase 5. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. Also part of this phase are our boiler controls. Um, as you see, our boiler was upgraded last year because we had to go through state inspection and for the insurance purposes. So we did an extensive job on our boiler, so we didn't need to replace that. And in this situation, our boiler is our secondary heat source, and our heat pumps are our primary heat source. So what we'll be doing in the boiler on phase 5, we're adding a chemical pot feeder, and this is a little extra because we've been saving money. And this may be a little technical. At the high school, we have water pipes that go through, but they have a chemical treatment to make sure that the water doesn't rust and corrode the pipes. The elementary school didn't have that. So we'll be putting in a chemical pot feeder to be able to treat and maintain the water so that we can keep the pipes conditioned and prevent any further deterioration of that hot water loop in the building. And we also will be adding digital controls and hot water sensors so that we can monitor that at the office and alarms. So all of that will be part of phase 5 as well. So it'll be going on pretty quickly. Next slide. And this is something that as we were testing the units, and we go through a process called test and balance certification. So we had them out there, and because one of the main things in a school building during the COVID-19 is the ventilation in the buildings. So just so everybody, the code requirement for the outside to return air is 15 cubic feet per person. And that becomes very important as we're figuring out space. So we look at a space and say, how many people are we going to put in this space maximum? And then we multiply that out by 15, and we see if we're getting that kind of airflow per minute in there for it to be certified. So that's very important. Next slide. So I put that in to say this. About 4 years ago, the district invested and put in a new heat pump, which you see right here for the cafeteria of JES. So it's great, great unit, it's working fine. But when we did the test to certify, we had the outside to fresh air mix wasn't correct, and we weren't getting the 15 required per person in that area. So we're also going to be installing in phase 5 a new mixing box and some new controls as well as duct work. Not extensive, but just to get the mixing box fitted to the existing duct work, we will be doing that. And then we're going to have not only this unit area test and balance, which isn't new, but we also the rooftop unit that serves the kitchen personnel. We're going to make sure that they're getting the right fresh air mixer. They have a mixing box on that unit already, and they're getting enough airflow. So we're going to make sure that the whole building is certified that we're getting the right airflow per student or per person rather in our buildings at the maximum. So that's good. So that's also part of it. And we were able to do this because we were very good with the money, and our prices came in a little bit under what we thought. So this was upgrade within our budget of the current project, and something that needed to be done because we're facing the COVID-19, and we want to make sure. So along with our air purifiers that we have all over the building, for every unit, we will make sure that the right fresh air to outside return air is correct, and we're getting that mix for our students. So and I'm very proud of that. Next slide. So this is our phase 5 timeline. We got with Ms. Jenkins and her staff. We want to start a little bit early to kind of get some things and some parts and pieces in. So that would just involve her shifting her office and for a week before spring break, and her rotation in and out of her media center. So we feel really good about that. So as you can see in your packets that will be finished, all of the actual installation by the 2nd of April, which corresponds to the ending of our spring break, and then the test and balance, which they'll come in, you won't even know they're there. They'll come in and certify uh, the work all over the building. So as you see, we're looking at April 7th as our final finish the project. So that would be finish the project and get our certification, at which time that I will come back with the superintendent's permission and come back and present that to you that our project has been certified and is finished. Next slide. So the budget and cost for the project and phase 5. The architect's estimates for this project initially, and this is why we decided to go this route, was $1.1 million. So in seeing that, we had to come up with an alternative. So we got with vendors, we did some due diligence, and so we came up with the number of $583,653 for our project. So the actual cost of phases 1 through 4 was $430,008. And the estimates that we have for all of the work that you heard about, the boiler controls, unit 7 and 8, as well as the duct work and fresh air, along with additional controls, will be $147,000, bringing the project total expenditure to $577,000, which is approximately $6,326 less than what we projected. So if we weren't going to do the fresh air mixing box and all of that for that unit, we probably have more close to 20,000, but that fits right in the budget and with the requirements and fighting COVID-19 and go along with our other mitigation methods that we're doing in the building, spraying spraying the entire building once a week, using Mob 13, and that's another thing. All of our filters are Mob 13, the highest Mob level that catches viruses and bacteria. So we went to great expense. So all of those mitigation efforts are for naught if we don't have the right fresh air to return air mixture. So I'm happy to present this to you, Mr. Dixon, and you, Mr. Rouse, as well as the other board for your approval. Thank you.
Any questions, and then I'll give some remarks concerning it.
Any questions?
I just want to ask one question. Will the food service pay for this or the E-Splash? E-Splash pay for it with the additional?
The part, the
Yes.
cafeteria.
With the yes.
The fresh air part where we purchased the unit in the cafeteria, we have a couple of options that we can go. That's a very good question. Because we got the money due to COVID, the funds that we got, we could utilize that because let me get this down. Our eSpots dollars, there are things that we can and cannot use it for. The monies that the 1.6 that we have more flexibility with that money. You have more flexibility with that money than you do your eSpots dollars. There may be some special things that you do need your eSpots dollars with. You also have, school food service have their own pot of money. So that would be a good thing for us to explore to see where our school food service is standing, because sometimes they have a surplus of money and they have to spend, or either they will be penalized.
It don't carry over.
They can't carry over but a certain percentage.
Okay.
And sometimes they got to spend it to get below their threshold. So Ms. Saunders sometimes won't spend if you don't make her spend. And so if she's in one of those situations, one of those upside down situations where she's got to spend, then we will definitely probably look at that situation first. And then that will be a situation that we just need to talk with you all. We got it approved through our eSPLOS, but there may be a situation where you may need our eSPLOS dollars for something else. And while we have some options of some ways to fund it, it may be good to explore our options of how we got to fund it. But we know that we're gonna get it, we got it budgeted to do. We're gonna do it, it's just how we're gonna choose to pay for it. So that's a very good question. Does everybody understand those options? And are you in agreement with, to explore that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we know we're moving, and so I guess we would need just an action item that we are going to move forward, and just with that to explore, the options that we do have, of the funding sources, to utilize the best funding source to get it paid for. Because either one of those funding sources are good funding sources, but I will put that in the motion.
Okay. I hear a recommendation, thank you, Mr. Bacon, and get a recommendation from the superintendent concerning the, HVAC Phase 5 budget.
Your recommendation, Mr. Hill?
Yes, my recommendation is that we approve the HVAC Phase 5 budget with the option to explore the funding mechanism.
I move that motion.
Second. The motion been properly made by Ms. Blackshear, second by Mr. Stevens, to approve the recommendation from the superintendent concerning the HVAC Phase 5 budget, exploring the option of where to, fund it from. Any question, any discussion? All in favor, I know the aye, raise your hand. That motion carried unanimously.
And Mr. Chair, just a moment of clarity, we're only exploring that portion of the cafeteria costs as to where we're going. That's the only part that we're exploring. The rest of it will come from these slots.
Great presentation.
Great presentation.
Next item C, River Edge Mental Health Council. Information item, Mr. Dixon.
Mr. Chair, we've had so much bad news during 2020 and COVID-19 that this is almost scary that we're beginning to get so much good news. We applied for a grant with River's Edge Mental Health Counseling Service last year. We were made aware early in the fall that we did get the grant, but due to COVID, we had not had any communication. I've been calling because my concern has been for the students' social and emotional well-being. In a neighboring county just this weekend, an 8th grader was found not in a stable state, had inflicted harm to his own life. And not to say that was due to COVID, but when kids can't get out, run, play, and do the things that are age appropriate, they begin to find things to do. But we are fortunate here in Tweeds that we will have a certified mental health counselor full-time that will be no cost to the district. It's due to a grant that we wrote collaboratively with Rivers Edge Mental Health. The counselor will be housed at the middle high school and will serve the middle high school and the elementary school as well. So we'll have a place an office at the elementary, but the large portion of the time will be housed at the middle high school, but we'll serve the elementary school as well. So we're fortunate to have that.
How long would this council be able to serve us?
I think the grant is for 3 years. Based upon, we meet all the criteria every year, and it's several counties, several school districts that's got it. So that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing. And so they will be here on Thursday doing a walkthrough. We'll do a walkthrough on Thursday. to look at, space and introduce them to administrators. So we're excited about that.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any more questions for Mr. Dixon concerning the, River Edge Mental Health Council?
We still have them, River Edge out here.
No, they have moved. Yes, yes, they have moved.
Don't we have them?
Next item is item D, governor incentive check. Action item, Mr. Dixon.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, board members, this is pervasive across the state. Everybody is waiting to see what their board is going to do about this check. I don't know. I sent you all some information from a neighboring county down the road of what they did with their staff last night. It was a big announcement at our board meeting tonight. That was a big announcement. The neighboring county, that was the city system. The county system, they did the 1,000 and then did 500 on top of the 1,000. And everybody is using some of the other funds that we receive to subsidize the 1,000 or whatever, if they choose to do that. So I just want to give you some of the options of what's being used. We will get from the state for monies of everybody that's on our CPI report. So we're gonna get that money from the state. So everybody that's on the CPI report, we'll get funding for them. So that will be at no cost to our locals. We should not have to use any local tax dollars to do whatever we do with the incentive. Because you can choose to use some of your first COVID, I'm not calling the right money. CARES Act money. You could choose to use some of your CARES Act money from our first round, if we choose to do anything. Or we could choose to do the 1,000. But it is a good morale booster if you choose to do so. So it's open for discussion of what our what you would like to see happen.
And this
Is Mr. Austin down here? Because I think I need him in here.
And this, I'm sorry, this would be intended for all school level staff, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And what happened in one county, they did a prorated, but however the board choose to prorate it, come on in now, see sir. However the board chooses to prorate, or if they do choose to do a prorate, or if you choose to do across the board, that's the board's. This is your option. We don't have, high teacher supplements, and our teachers come and our teachers work hard. So this is an opportunity, that if we choose to, this is an opportunity that we can return some kindness.
Yes. And I think that we need to do that across the board. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, okay, the mandate, well, the governor said we do the 1,000, and if we do the 1,000 for the ones that was not included in the governor's initiative, because there was some that was not included in that. Most of our staff was included in that. The maintenance workers, custodians, cafeteria, yes, bus drivers. Everybody was included into that. There were a few that were not included. So we got two discussions going on. Do we want to include everybody? And do we want to do anything, additional from any of our cares? That's
Well,
what
let
we
me ask this
don't,
question.
yes.
Everybody, that's me, everybody. And I think that once you go over your budget again, for the CARES Act money and funding, and Mr. Austin works that up, then you come up with an additional incentive if the board wants to do that. But even for those people that were not included, I think that they should.
And I think you got some numbers, right?
Yes, sir. So we have on payroll about 130 people. So we're looking at paying everybody. That figure will be about 150,000, and we're expecting to get majority, if not all that, from the state, and the rest we'll put with it. So we won't be too far off.
Okay.
It won't hurt us too bad at all to make that happen.
And what are we sitting from our, we're sitting still, so, and I think that's, anybody else, because Ms. Cheney has given us one suggestion, with that part, and that's a great suggestion.
But they all will get the same amount, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
James, who all was that?
The initial conversation was some individuals in central office level, and then that went back to include pre-K, because that was initially left out. So that's been covered. But to my understanding, it just maybe some individuals in central office at the administrative level, whatever they define it as, but we'll get more guidance as they get closer to approving.
And what happened in the districts that I sent you a copy of is that they went ahead and used some of their CARES Act money to go ahead and front it, to give it to people around spring break, rather than waiting. So just as a morale booster. So that's why, that's why you see people be going ahead and giving it, rather than waiting, just as a morale booster.
I like that idea too, but I still think that, for me, that everyone should be involved. And, again, because right now I just feel like it's kind of dropped on me. I want to think about it a little more, talk about the budget part of it more. I know the funding is there, but I'm all for people getting an incentive. Because the schools are back open and things are going pretty good. I think they're going great. But I think, for me, I can't make that decision tonight, but for everyone to receive that package, I'm all for that. And I love the spring break too, but I can't just jump and do that part
Okay,
tonight.
so we're just dealing with Mr. Rouse, if I'm understanding, we'll just deal with the one, just 1,000,
Right.
just 1,000.
From the state money.
And we'll, Mr. Austin will, that everybody will get the 1,000.
So that's just me now.
Well, I agree with that, until you look more at the budget and then, decide how much, if you want to, and then how much you want to, instead of just tonight because of what another district did, and we might think we can do that, but, I think.
Oh, no, we can't.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, that's why I say we need to take time and, look at the budget more. That's my opinion.
I'm with you.
Superintendent with you too, huh?
Anybody else?
Sounds good.
Okay, what's your recommendation then, Mr.
My recommendation, Mr. Chair, will be that we seek approval for the governor's incentive check of every staff member to receive $1,000, and we will cut it during the March check, so they will receive it going home for spring break. In a separate check, Mr. Austin.
You heard the recommendation from the superintendent? What do I do?
So moved.
That motion been properly made by Ms. Cheney and seconded by Mr. Stevens to approve the government incentive to check for all employees, and that the check will be cut for the March month. With payroll with a separate check.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? All in favor, I know by raising your hand or saying aye. That motion carried unanimous. Next is item E, January FY 21 financial report. Action item, Mr. Austin.
Good evening again, Board Chair, Vice Chair, Board members, Superintendent Dixon, constituents of the community. We are now looking at January 31st in the month financial report. As always, in between the first quarter of the year, or the calendar year, we have received the majority, if not all, of the bulk of our taxes. And that's been heavily reflected on this report in our revenue section. As you see, we have received over 8% of our ad valorem taxes. That makes up our budget. And the good part about this is as we look at, thank you, as I have a hard time seeing that. As we look at expenditures compared to where we are in the fiscal year, we are about 58% in the fiscal year. And for our spending ratio, we're at 63%. Now this is important because normally we'll see a fluctuation of about 8 to 10%. So we're cutting our expenditures down and really focus on spending according to where we are in the budget period. So that has been reflected, and I'm definitely proud to see that matching closely because we can really say that we're spending based upon what we need. And far as revenue, again, this puts us in a position to where we have added to our monthly fund balance $1 million to the monthly fund balance, and that's how much we have over our expenditures. So we're in a good place financially. Month end of January, I feel very good, especially in the pandemic, to have numbers that look like this, and we've been able to do the things we needed to for the boys and girls and the staff, keeping them safe. So we're looking to continue this trend. Obviously, the slowdown in taxes will come. We'll start seeing that number lessen, but we are at a good pace as of January end. Any questions or concerns about budgetary items in the month of January?
Tell me what this other is again?
In the revenue section, so other could be donations, anything that we could not have accounted for, and that'll be money that'll go for that line item.
That's some big numbers, that's why I was like, what is this other? Or is the year-to-date what it is? And
Yes.
what it was budgeted for, that's great, okay.
Yes, ma'am, there can be surplus money, it can be other grants that we haven't considered, it can be literally anything outside of taxes and state dollars.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions, Mr. Austin? What's your recommendation?
Mr. Chair, it is my recommendation, happy to seek approval for those numbers right there for financial report ending January 21.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
The motion has been properly made by Ms. Stokes and seconded by Ms. Blackshear to accept the recommendation of the superintendent for the January FY 21 financial report presented by Mr. Austin. Any discussion at this time? All in favor, please by aye or raise your hand. That motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Chair, since we're right here up under financials, Mr. Austin, only you get and we, because I want to be able to bring something to you at our next meeting, and then this does deal with finance, and it deals with our first round of CARES Act monies. I think I heard the board clearly when we talked about that we wanted to make sure that we were outfitted with student computers enough. So we met administratively the other day, and we decided, how many more computers were we going to? 300, and that was gonna cost us about 70, around 75,000. And that would get us totally true one-to-one. Am I correct on that? Yes, sir. Okay. That would give us true one-to-one. We talked about math curriculum because we've had a lot of focus on literacy. And so the principals expressed that about math at the elementary school, about math curriculum. And 6-8 did express something about math curriculum because we focused on literacy a whole lot the last 6-7 years. So math was one of those things that came up as well. As we talked about that, going forward, the other thing was some assistance with a nurse just down, dealing with those little ones, because they have a lot of little needs with that. So I'm just throwing out some things to you that as we come back in our next meeting, we'll have some list of priorities for you guys to because what we need to do is we need to do a revised budget with our CARES one. So you'll kind of know where you was, and if there was something else in there, and we did the shields. We talked about the shields as well to this last year. Now, did I miss anything that we did? Any board member brought up?
So have y'all started doing the research on the desk shields also?
We started doing research on the desk shields as well. So I think we captured it all, but I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dixon. That being all, we will motion to exit out of business session and go into executive session.
I'll make that motion that we exit, regular session into executive session.
Second. The motion has been properly made by Ms. Cheney, seconded by Mr. Stevens, that we exit out of regular session and enter into executive session. Any discussion? All in favor, I know you by aye, raise your hand. That motion carry unanimous. We shall return. exit executive session and move back into public session.
I'll make that motion that we return to regular session.
Second?
The motion has been properly made by Ms. Cheney, seconded by Ms. Blackshear, that we will exit executive session and enter back into public session. Any discussion? All in favor, please by aye, raise your hand. That motion carries unanimously. While in executive session, we discussed legal matters, and the superintendent is gonna address that with our attorney. So we're still working on that. Had two recommendations from the superintendent on, resignation. Employee 2022 and employee 2021. You can give me a motion for both, or we can divide them up. Okay, give me a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the resignation of, employee number 2021 and 2022.
Second motion.
That motion has been properly made by Ms. Cheney and seconded by Mr. Stevens to accept the recommendation of the resignation.
Resignation.
The recommendation of the resignation of the two employees, 2022 and 2021. Any discussion? All in favor, please by aye, or raise your hand. That motion carries unanimously. That's all. You got a motion to exit, to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
The motion has been properly made by Ms. Stokes, seconded by Ms. Cheney, that this meeting was down adjourned. Any discussion? All in favor, please by aye, or raise your hand.